Drop in the untold stories of industry leaders, influencers, and insights on future innovation. I'm John Davidson, and this is the DLC Drop Podcast. All right, well, welcome to the DLC Drop Podcast. I am so excited to welcome my good friend, co-founder, and designer of ULT Esports Apparel, a gaming fashion apparel brand, producer of physical and digital goods, nacho enjoyer extraordinaire, Nate Eckman. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, fellow bro nacho brethren here. I'm doing really well. We're approaching midweek, and as with any a business, there's just an incredible amount of activity. So it's one part like taking a nice little hour in between things to talk to a friend, is nice. And I'm happy to be here and to support it. And I'm super stoked for you I want to learn more. We haven't had an hour to catch up in a while, so this will be fun. Yeah,
usually text messages. It's a picture of nachos every other day, and it's like a rapid call, 5 minutes between our phone calls.
Like today, I was like, I got to go outside and open the gate. I'll just call John. I got about 12 seconds.
Perfect. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, this is the very first episode. Super hyped. I feel like it works out perfectly that you're the first guest, because we've been working together for a while, more unofficially, working towards a ton of things. One thing that I think would be fun to share with the audience is the John and Nate origin story.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your perspective, and I'd love to share mine. But just to set it up for the audience here, I went to the Esports Rising conference in LA.
Sure.
It was my second time. The year before was shortly after I had joined GameStop. And so it was just like an eye-opening experience from the industry perspective, because I had never been in the industry. Obviously I was aware of esports, fan of gaming, but I hadn't gotten into the industry until I joined GameStop, and they said, John, figure out esports for us. So year one, I was like, nobody has this figured out. This is awesome. Like, to be part of the grassroots and, of this global competitive landscape. And then year two, I saw on the flyer there, Esports Apparel. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, I'm definitely going to check out that conference. So I had a guy from an agency attending with me, and I was like, you go to the other one, I'm going to this one. And cool. I had heard of ULT before, obviously. And I saw that you guys were in Zoomies and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, there's some traction here, but I wasn't like super familiar with the brand. And I sat down and I listened to you and some of the other people talking. And I was like, okay, what he's wearing is dope. You're wearing that jacket, the ghost jacket or whatever. Sure. So I was like, okay, the apparel's dope. What he's saying is true. And I agree with a lot of like the sentiment around culture and, how to reach the community. Right. I was like, I got to talk to this dude. So I waited for the panel to end barely. And then I think I walked up to the stage and I said, hey, I need to talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of echo too. Okay. I think we fixed it. You did. I wasn't quite off the stage, and you were, but I'd say, I've done my fair share of, as you have, different types of speaking things. And, you never exactly know who is in the audience, like you could look at the agenda and you could be like, oh, like, I know what I'm going to talk about. I know who else is going to be up there, but you never know who's in the audience. So, I remember that particular one. I scanned the audience and I was like, man, I was very curious, because you never know who's going to connect with what you're talking about as a brand or as a trying to innovate in a category or whatever. And usually you do get a lot of curious people hitting you up after, and but I immediately was like, okay, John's got a ton of energy. He's right up in my face. and he's got all these ideas, and he's kind of like glowing with enthusiasm. And we immediately related about our mutual like love of skateboarding. Like, I think a lot of times it's easy to walk into a gaming or esports conference and just like, you kind of assume everybody's into gaming. You don't really like grill each other about like video games. But talking about skateboarding kind of came about because, like you said, there was a retail conversation, or like I was wearing a certain skate shoe, talking about making a skate shoe and a collaboration with a skate company.
Yeah.
And we kind of immediately connected on that level. And I was like, man, this is super unique. I never talk about skate culture at a gaming convention in panel ever, really.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to relate to people about like, why does my love of video games and my love of fashion and my love of skateboarding, like, how does that all inform what ULT is as a brand? And you just immediately got it. Like, you just, like, it just took like no explanation, no history, context, backstory. I think from that point, I was just like super comfortable talking to you. And like, I remember, you know, my first trip down to Dallas to come and meet up with you. And like, I think by that point, like, I just felt super at ease, you know, sharing like what was on my mind about like building the ULT brand and the category and the challenges and where retail was at with the category. And like,
you
know, just kind of from that point till now, I mean, it feels like we've not only built a great relationship, but like the brand has gone through a crazy amounts of transformation. And, you know, so you've really been very mindful of the space. And yeah, dude, you cut right through everybody. I remember I was ready to go. I was like, okay, I've talked to everybody now. I'm just gonna get back in my car and like get out of here, because I live in LA. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna drive out of this place.
Right.
And you were like, no, dude, we gotta go talk. Let's go sit down. Let's talk. And I was like, I'm like, cool. I mean, I'm here. You flew here, so this is a lot more on you.
Yeah, that was my one chance. You're like, I'm about to drive home 5 miles for 2 hours in traffic.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is my moment. I think what happened to, you know, I've been a brand ambassador since I was 14 years old. So, you know, I've been, you know, with skateboarding sponsors and stuff. So I'm used to repping brands. And so I think just at a young age, I just developed this ownership around the brands I was involved in. And during that time, I didn't really have a brand to rep. In fact, like, I was going to H&M just buying like plain t-shirts because, you know, I'm in my 30s and it's, you know, I'm not trying to have some like giant logo on my shirt. I think Volcom's dope, you know, as a skateboarder, but it's not my brand, you know. And I think, you know, as we just talked and we really connected through skateboarding, through gaming, I just like, it just felt like automatic, you know. And
dope is one of your favorite words. I've learned this. and you know, my our mutual appreciation for good nachos and the use of the word dope. I think, you know, you as a, we talk about this too, because like, I'm a fan of gaming. I am a gamer, but I'm a fan of watching gaming and like what's happening in the culture. And, you know, whether you're speaking on a stage or you're playing at home or you're talking with your friends, like I've come at it from, I'm a customer in that world. And like, you know, for you to be able to say like, I like want to rep a brand. I want a brand that I feel is dope. Right. But I don't have one in the gaming space that I can identify with, that I feel that level of passion about, you know. And it was always my dream to be able to build something as a gamer who also like loved culture and fashion and streetwear and grew up skateboarding and surfing and all these things. I was like, I just identified a lot personally as a gamer, and it was something I felt really called to do. So it's high praise, dude, when somebody's like, yo, that's dope. Like, ULT is a dope brand, just like you would say a surf or a skate brand that you grew up with, that you connect with on that kind of emotional level as a person who identifies, you know, themselves with what they wear on their body, you know, like, especially in such a an area like gaming where, you know, like identity is such a huge part of how we express who we are. And I just felt like we didn't, to your comment, we didn't have too many dope things going on. And there was always something that I wanted to be a part of.
Well, and that's a lot of behind what you like, the driving force behind starting the brand, right? Like, talk a little bit about, you know, I want to go back before that to your agency experience, but why don't you tell the audience, like, where were you in your headspace when you were thinking about creating a brand and then taking the actual steps to do it? Because man, everybody has a t-shirt company, right?
Right.
You know, I've you know, started my new brand. Like, I'm throwing my logo on a couple things just so I can wear it. You know, I'm not starting an online store or anything at this point,
Sure.
but that's a step from I'm quitting my job. I'm like pursuing this and creating tangible things for the community in hopes that it's adopted, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of primed about a decade of my life for that choice. You know, like you said, I did come up from the agency world. I did build a gaming division within an agency. It was a lifestyle agency. So it was doing client work for automotive or beverage companies or things like this. And as a young person in that company, I was a gamer, and I just was like, you guys, this is a huge amount of the industry and of the emerging aspirational space of the youth space, and we're not addressing it. We're not talking to this customer. I'm one of them. I know this is real, and there wasn't really a lot of expertise. You know, this was like quite a few years back. There wasn't anybody calling themselves experts, and I just was like, I want to become an expert about everything I can to convince these guys that gaming is real. It's a real industry. And so I kind of took it upon myself, and over the next few years, just was wildly ambitious, you know, and I went after the biggest publisher to me at the time was Riot, and I became obsessed with League of Legends, and it's still one of my favorite games to this day. And so I didn't start from like zero, you know, I had kind of come in with this understanding of brand. And living in Los Angeles, a lot of my friends were starting streetwear brands, you know, that have grown to be quite successful at this point. So I was very knowledgeable about that scene. I was very like tuned into what was happening in the games industry. I was fortunate to work with, you know, like Microsoft, Xbox, Ubisoft, Riot, Legal, like this level caliber of publisher, and the rigor of their kind of expectations and guidelines and processes. So I was heavily trained in this kind of way about approaching the industry from a product design, merchandising, in-game design. Like, so I was kind of fostering this level of what I would just at that point in my life say I just building an expertise, to the point of you know, people start asking you to be a category expert to consult them. So whether it was an intelligence company farming data about the customer, or it was a new developer creating a game that wanted to market it, or it was a AAA title release with a national campaign, and I had to get in there and think about creative marketing.
Sure.
It was really just a series of building those experiences. But the choice to separate myself from the day-to-day, like basically giving my best my time and my best thoughts to let's say a client, or serving another business as a consultant level, it really came out of frustration, out of kind of creative frustration.
Right.
And I mean, it took me a couple years to reflect back and be like, I suppose that's how a lot of people start their entrepreneurial journey, is like you reach the ceiling and you're like, you become frustrated because there's so much more you want to do. There's so much more you want to express and bring to the world.
Yeah.
And only you can see it. Only you have the vision for it, as they say, right? And you have to start taking yourself seriously. So that step, like you said, to challenge myself to do something new, like quit a job I had for a decade. I was very comfortable in that job. Start a completely unknown path for myself. And it was really just, I was, like I said, I was frustrated, but I was very motivated about what I was passionate about.
Yeah.
And I believed for then and to this day, like the truth I felt within myself has not changed. I love this space. You know, I've been a gamer my whole life, and I can't wait to see where I can help shape that, not just like wait and see. I don't want to just wait and see.
Same. Yeah.
I want to be like, this is awesome. It's on the front edge of the culture. How can I participate in that? Share my voice with the voices of others, just like you, who like find each other on the front edge of it. And be like, this is super interesting. Like I get to learn from so many other really passionate people who love games just as much as me. And they're bringing all their life experience to the table. And for me, it was a creative step. It was like, I want to challenge myself to create a brand, to let it participate in the space with anybody it wants to, with publishers, with leagues, with teams, and with brands, other brands that I can collaborate with, you know, and build these partnerships. So, I mean, from there, it's just like you're running full speed and you're learning and you're attacking it, and you're just like surrounding yourself with as brilliant people as you possibly can, who will challenge you and enable you to see things from a different perspective, you know? So, I mean, that's kind of how we get here. Right. And then you look left and right, and there's just a handful of other people just like you who see it, you know, they see it, and it's clear.
Right.
And we get to help, you know, not just be there to support each other, but also to help not just like educate other partners and brands how to make the space even more awesome. But we can really be stewards of that, like initial excitement, you know, that you felt when you were a kid, and you're like, I just love video games, and I love sharing it. I love experiencing it. And I just happen to come from a background that was more creative, and like I've always loved design. And so I was like, that's what I can bring to this community. You know, I can bring my love of design to the table. And, you know, I've been really very blessed and fortunate to have gotten to work with large publishers, and it teaches you a lot about how to continue to challenge yourself, and like where your unique voice really is and how important that is to your growth. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded.
No, that's perfect. I think one thing that's so sick is when it's your own brand, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that statement might sound obvious, like of course you can, but you know, I'm just going out on my own right now, my own entrepreneurial journey, and it's just kind of a mind trip to me as sort of like, wait, like for better or for worse, whatever I want to do, I can do it, you know, the way that I think it should be done. And coming up through, you know, I've always worked for people. And so I've always had somebody that it either I need approval or I'm at least bouncing an idea off of. And sometimes that can be a little bit of a safety net, like, oh, do you think this is a good idea? Well, okay. If you don't, okay, it's not a good idea. But you come to a point where you have confidence in what you've done. I think it's really interesting to hear about, you know, you weren't 18 years old, came out of high school and started a t-shirt company, and now it's alt, right?
Right.
You worked for 10 years in an agency, and then eventually you got to a point where the need within you was so great that you had to let it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's very accurate. You know, I didn't know how I could go on another another month, let alone another year. Like giving my absolute all, like every good thought in my brain, I dedicated to advancing. Like you said, like I'm working for other people. You know, they paying you good money for your time, and but in those situations, like you can't control all the variables. There's an execution team. There's a budget team. There's a marketing team. You're showing up. You might deliver a plan, took you a couple months, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you get to be the one to bring that to the market with the vision you had. You have to share that responsibility with other people, which is cool. Like, I love being on a team, but to your comment earlier about like, part of being an entrepreneur is like, it is your responsibility to that, and to that truth that you feel, to that voice, which is yours, and how far you take that, and the way you can be critical of yourself, and you can look at like, well, this could be better. This isn't my best. If my best is what I've got to bring, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to adapt, and I'm going to evolve, and I'm going to bring my best again. And if I don't have the right tool or partner in place or team member in place, like, I've got to think about that, because the level at which you try to compete when you're playing with publishers and you're playing with global brands and you're playing with collaborators who have been around over 100 years, like, they're not, like you said, they're not kids just throwing t-shirts out the trunk of car, right? Like, they're developing culture with their choices. And whenever I get this question of like, oh, do you make clothes? I'm like, yeah, I make some products, but it's really about delivering ideas. It's about taking something that I'm really passionate about, finding a medium to share it. And I might be making physical products, but like, I also am an artist. I paint and I do all these other types of mediums. And to me, like, clothing is one of those mediums. And the real vessel of how do I share an idea that I just like can't contain, and I think, that's really how I've continued to challenge myself to grow. And that's where the brand trajectory comes from. It's like, I believe there's a stepping stone with everything that I'm building today where I can take it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that has proven very true for me, and the more ambitious I am with my thinking, the more support I get from friends like you, who are also very well connected in this industry.
Right.
And the more vocal I am, the more I ask for help, the more I am open to being critiqued, the faster I will advance, and to find that part of like, well, when I was a kid, I was like always curious, like, where do I end? Like, where does my raw talent end? And I haven't found it yet, because I think I'm open-minded enough to continue to learn. And it's that curiosity that finds you in the craziest, like, boardrooms at the biggest companies. It's like, you're just a kid who loves games with a lot of big ideas, but then you grow up, and 30 years later, it's like, you're one of the few people who get to push, the category forward, which is super exciting.
I think what's cool about ULT specifically is like, there's a ton of experimentation in the designs, and I'm curious to get your take on that balance of like, okay, I got to sell product to make money, and also I want to express myself as an artist. I think it's kind of cool. When I first looked at your Instagram, I was like, whoa, Nate's really creative.
Sure.
But
it's a nice way to put it.
And I remember that jacket you were wearing when I first met you, that ghost jacket. Now I have two of them. Thank you for this, by the way. And I love the way just to help people understand who are listening to this, is it's a material that's a pattern underneath, and it's a translucent material on top that's like, it's white, but you can kind of see through it. And so depending on where the wrinkles in your sleeves or on your body are, you can see the pattern underneath differently. And I remember just looking at that jacket and being like, whoa, this is sick. And then I know now you're experimenting with like the shirt you're wearing now, the way like I was watching the video you put out yesterday about the design, and it's like, you're fascinated how light interacts with chrome and silver, and to take, my original thought about t-shirts and you're doing more than just t-shirts, but is, a cool design, print it. And there's a lot more going on in your apparel than just a screen printer.
Yeah, I think like a lot of times people who look at apparel, they think like it's graphics. It's graphics or logos. You take a graphic that looks cool and you put it on something and people buy it because they think the graphic is cool. That's like graphic design.
Right.
And I think what you're talking about is really what I think about a lot is the relationship between art and design, because they have different purposes,
Right.
and a lot of the experimental ideas that I use in design come from my art, like, and it's a big study on light and texture, what happens with color when you put these colors together, creating color theory, and like the use of different types of mixed media in art translates into mixed media on the clothes, and what happens when light hits the clothes, what happens when you move,
Yeah.
and which is not a study on graphics at all. Like there's no like graphics that are almost like much further down the road. Like you've got to decide from an artistic standpoint, like, does this say something that I need to say? Is it a necessary thing I need to communicate? Do other people feel this way too, think this way too? Like, and you said that just looks really cool. Like, that's where you start to translate it into design, where, yeah, I hope it looks cool from an artistic standpoint, but from a design standpoint, when you put it on, do you like how it fits? Do you like how it moves? Do you feel like it complements other aspects of your wardrobe? Like, does it fit into the utility of, like, is it a good rain jacket? It is a nice lightweight jacket. Like,
Sure.
how can you wear it? What's the wearability of that utility? So, uh, you know, commercialization is an exercise in design. It's like, I want to make something good for you
Sure.
because you are a customer and I am also a customer of brands. So design is how I help solve problems of value. I'm saying, like, how can this product bring value to your life and your utility? It's comfortable. I like how it fits me, and it helps me stay warm. Like, these are utility driven thoughts. Is it affordable? Can it fit my budget? Is it aspirational in pricing? Is it going to make me feel like I'm wearing something very premium, or luxurious, or fashion oriented? Does that
Right.
fit, that lifestyle for you? So there is a one-to-one relationship of, like, being an artist doesn't always mean your experimental ideas are going to translate into revenue. So you have to
Big
be,
time.
yeah, you have to be mindful. You have to be sensible. You say, I'm gonna carry the really interesting ideas. I'm gonna play with them in my design, and I'm gonna find a balance where my customer can appreciate the art, but they can afford the design, and they
Yeah.
can wear it. And my hope is that when they wear something by ULT, that they feel like a sense of pride,
Yeah.
like, this looks cool, I want to wear it. Like, you see it going by and somebody's wearing some piece that you've designed, and you're like, they look like they feel comfortable in what they're wearing, confident in how they look, and that they've purchased it knowing, like, they believe that the brand is doing something relevant in their community and in a scene that they think is cool, like within gaming or fashion. And that's really where you start to study what happens next, which is just mountains of data, you know, and
Right.
then that circle comes back where it's like, now data informs your creative, and then that reinforms design, and then now you have more data, and then you're just like constantly finding inspiration from all these different aspects, and it's just so much bigger than a t-shirt graphic when you think about it like that,
Big
you know
time.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I love the thought of the feeling of it. There's I mean everybody can relate to like your favorite piece of clothing. Whether you're a shoe person, you throw on those, the new Ultra Boosts or whatever, the new Jordans, and just that feeling you have you're walking around, or even just something that fits really well, that's a nice material. What I always relate back to is my skateboarding background, that skateboarding at a certain point is more mental than it is even physical. And so if I'm wearing something that I feel dope in, to use my favorite word, like my confidence is higher, right? Like I'm ready to kill it. And I'm going to skate better just as a result of that. And I think confidence can go a long way in a lot of different things.
Oh man, yeah. It's the difference, right? Like we're all human. Like we're all on this planet together. We all have the same emotional equilibrium. We can be happy, we can be sad. But when you start to think about the points of differentiation, and why does one person succeed more than the other? Like, what is that about? Is it a better idea? Did they raise more money? Did they convince more people to support them? Like, what is it? And confidence is a huge piece of that process. Like embracing your voice and being unafraid to utilize it is an exercise in confidence. Taking the time and money to be diligent to bringing a product line to the market and to do all the content and to all the campaigns and to work with all the collaborations and partners. You have to be very, very diligent to that process or something will fall down, you know, and it's confidence that keeps you going. And it's your confidence that is almost like a magnet, like other people are attracted to that. And then mutually, like the team starts to radiate with confidence. And then together you could do so much, you know, you can do a tremendous amount with a small group of very confident individuals.
Very true. I'm curious about how you feel when like putting yourself out there. I mean, I know you have a new line that's coming out, and I mean, that's one thing with design is you're putting your heart and soul into something that you believe in, and there's going to be haters out there, right? And you might create something that's awesome, or you might create something that's not awesome, and you might and depending on it could be awesome or not, and it could be greatly adopted. It could be awesome and it's not the right time and culture or whatever. But how much do you like listen to the response of your creativity versus just being confident in like, I believe in this and I want to put it out because I feel like I need to?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. I think as an artist first, you have to be like far and away, I'm the most critical of myself, you know, and so I've become very comfortable and conditioned over my life to challenge myself creatively and to be like the first one to raise my hand and be like, that's not good enough. Like I could do better than that. And I'll repaint the same idea 200 times until that idea is perfected. And then I try to carry that level into all of my work, you know, and say like, can my design ideas be better? Can I sample that differently? Can I find a better method that's faster, that's more affordable, that delivers more value to the customer? Because I am a customer too. I buy products all the time, and I expect them to be incredible, and I want them to be incredible. But I think like part of this question is, you know, do you study your competition or because I get this question sometimes where it's like, oh, like, what do you think of your competitors? And I'm like, well, like as a customer, I appreciate that there's more options, you know, for people to buy. But as an individual, I don't dwell on the idea of competitors and competition. Like there'll always be people. There's quite a lot of people on this planet, you know, and I only know what's in my head, and I can only be truly honest with the level that I can critique myself, and then I can be willing to absorb criticism from the people I trust, very close friends, family, teammates, you know, people who I absolutely respect and have built a trust relationship with, like, but they're not my competition, you know, like it's really like, can you overcome your own fears before, right? And when I read comments and things, I take every comment very seriously. You know, if it's a customer who's like, why is this way? Why isn't it here yet? Like, because that's all part of my value proposition. Like, good design gets from me to you, right? My business to you. My teammates deliver this to you, you know, so understanding where we can continue to refine and be better is super important to the overall process.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get hung up on negative stuff. Like you want to be like a creature of evolution, be like, learn, adapt, keep going, push forward. Because if you just study the competition all day, it's like, that's really boring, man. That's like, well, what are they doing? What's in their head? You know, it's like, there's always, you know, so much more interesting ways to look at it, you know, when you just kind of like are open to, you know, where can I go? And if I am my best, that's the best that I can be.
Yeah.
And then I will learn and I will keep asking myself, is this my best? Because if I study someone else, I'm like, am I good up against them? It's kind of becomes this very subjective way of thinking, you know? So, you know, but honestly, even when you sell out of a collection, you know, that you've worked on for several months, you know, it's like, it's gratifying, but as a creative thinker, you I've already evolved past that. I'm already working on 10 other things. So like, it's exciting that people appreciate the work and recognize the work and like, they want to have a piece of that work for themselves. But I think from a fulfillment standpoint, from a personal creative fulfillment standpoint, you're already like, how can I challenge myself more, you know, and how can I continue to learn? And maybe there's something wrong with me, but you know, that just keeps me going. I'm just very curious. Like, what else can we do? You know?
Yeah, I think there's a balance. There's something to paying attention to the feedback of people, but when you're your own worst, I don't want to say worst critic, but honest critic, and you're never satisfied. You're always driven. If you drop a line and let's say it doesn't sell very well, like you're not making or breaking based on the sales of that line. Now that might affect your business, but you as a creative, as a person, you're always trying to grow. You're not just saying, let me design shirts that sell the most.
Yeah. You know,
you're focused on creativity more than,
and you know, the stakes will get higher as you push yourself. You'd be like, oh, I'm working with the biggest publisher in the world, or the biggest league in the world, or the most famous streamer in the world, or whatever. Like, you're going to find yourself in those little conversations and groups where, you know, excellence is like where is expected. You know, it's absolutely part of the game.
Big time.
You know, so, but that's the game that you want to be in. That's the game that you show up to play. Like, you want to be your best, and you want to learn from other people who can really understand like where you're at and like challenge you. And my favorite opportunities are always ones where I'm given a chance to learn something that I don't know yet, or I'm given a chance to try to adapt in a way that I don't have the answer for yet, and I need help to find the answer and to get there. Like, I see those as like life-changing transformational opportunities, not like, oh, I'm too scared to do that, or like I'm too fearful because my competitor did that and he failed, so I'm not going to try, you know.
Well, talk about adapting. One thing that I love your perspective on, we've talked a few times just one-on-one, is physical goods and then transitioning into digital goods, and how we as gamers, we identify virtually in these virtual worlds just as much as physically. And I think you're seeing young people more and more, their social platform where they interact with their friends is online. And so they want to represent themselves in the game the same way when we were in high school, we were doing it at school. Talk a little bit about that. I think that's super interesting. And that's a very forward thinking thing that I think, you know, a couple of years, we're all going to be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But today it's, for a lot of people, it's just a little forward thinking.
Yeah. I mean, there's like, you know, I have a website, it's a direct to consumer website, you know, it's a platform destination. But if I'm shopping in a game, with digital currency, right? Like, I'm buying direct to avatar pieces of virtual goods, digital goods, you know, virtual fashion for my second skin, right? That exists primarily inside of a game, you know, and my identity inside that game is very powerful to me, and how I think of myself and how I express myself. When I look in my closet, I'm pulling out my favorite piece of clothing to put on. It's almost like not as powerful as like, I'm going to change my skin today. I'm going to go and play my favorite game, and I'm going to unlock that skin that I've been wanting. I'm going to achieve that special item that I get to wear. Like, only people who have completed the hardest thing have this. It's a testament to your character, to what you love.
Yeah.
It's a speaking point. Like, there's certain friends of mine, like, we relate to each other, not as like, hi, my name is Nate and I do this. It's like, I am this character in this game. This is what I look like. And that is a point of pride. It's a point of identity. And if you just look at like cultural trends, like the logical progression of, I wear things in real life, I can also wear things in digital fashion. Right. And I can unlock, virtual goods that are just as important to me. And I think if you look at younger and younger audiences, that's so true to them. It's so much more true than it is to anybody, in some of the older generations. Like, so I think you have to identify those cultural shifts.
Yeah.
And you have to say, like, the things that I feel are very true to me, but they might be more true to others, to more people in the future. So what am I doing as a business, as an entrepreneur, as a brand to address those things now? And it's that type of work that you get really excited about. Like, a lot of people will, like, they go to your website and they see what your new collection is, and that's cool. But the thing in your mind that's even like so exciting is like, well, what if I could wear that somewhere, not just in reality, but in a virtual space? If I could take my art and I could scale it infinitely to millions of people in a virtual space, and that level of joy that I have can just touch more lives and express more people's identities. That's because in a physical world, it's finite. There's all these rules, logistical concerns, marketing, ad spends, like all of these variables. But inside of a digital space, you can achieve insane amounts of things that you could never do by reality's limitations.
Well, the funny thing about that is that's why a lot of people outside of gaming don't understand virtual content, because they're like, how is that valuable? You just copy and paste, you recreate it, right? There is no tangible value to it. There's not a certain type of material. There's not, this was shipped from this location, or there's a limited amount of goods. But I think the answer to that, and there's more than one answer, but one of it is that it's how young people socially interact is virtually. But I think, we're not necessarily looking for everybody to recognize us or validate us. We want to be recognized and validated by the people in our group.
Right.
And sometimes it's even better when people outside of your group don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like, you don't get it, and you don't need to get it.
The thing is, like, digital can scale to millions of people yet you'll never meet, but it's most important to your friends, to the people that you care about, that you trust, that you respect, and that they can see, like, he's got a, as John would say, a dope shirt in real life. But how much more dope is it that you can wear that thing in a game, or you could see it in a game that you love, that you could explore a world with your friends online and discover the same art and design is available for you inside the world of a game that you love. Like,
right.
Like, that's the level of fascination that captivates our imagination as gamers. Like,
right.
You can go back to that time when you were the youngest you can remember, and that level of just immersing into the imagination and the endless possibilities inside of games. And I believe that art and design live so comfortably in that space as a means to, like you said, like, share and interact and communicate with your most close friends. And I think if we can succeed at that, if I can succeed in sharing a design with you as a friend, as someone I trust and respect, and be like, I can win right there. I know I can replicate that with other people I will never meet in reality. I will never meet them, but they're going to share that joy with their friends. Like, if I give them that opportunity space, that's all my work is meant to do, right? Is like create an opportunity space for people that I don't know to feel a sense of pride in their identity. Like, I wish I could meet them at events. I wish I could DM them on Twitter all day and get to know them front to back, like who they are, but I'm never going to get to meet millions of people like that. Like, what I can do is I can look within myself as an individual, and I can challenge myself to be like, what is the coolest thing I can possibly imagine in the universe? And make that my job. Make that my job today and tomorrow, and the next day and the next day after that. And I'm going to get closer and closer to it. And there's going to be more people sharing in that mission, and they're going to be registered in that vision with you. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, we're doing it. We're doing it. Like, we've convinced the impossible behemoth Goliaths of the world that this is legit, and it is the future, and it's everything. And like, I applaud you, John, with the work you're setting yourself upon with the brands, man. The brands that have been around longer than we've been alive.
Thank
and
you.
helping them trust and convey trust and respect to the other gaming community members of ours, and how to speak to them and communicate with them in ways that like brings value to their lives. I think like that's good, honest work, and I'm going to show up for you every time because we're aligned in that mission, like,
heck yeah, dude.
So
hyped on
nachos, dude. Nachos next time.
Nachos. Yeah. I think definitely episode number 2, we're going to have some nachos. My goodness. Yeah. Just so everybody, just for a little bit of background real quick, where the nacho thing comes from was Nate came to Dallas to pitch GameStop when I was working there. And we ended up having dinner over by the Star, by the GameStop Performance Center. Shout out Complexity and Jason Lake. And Nate was like, I've had nachos every single meal while I've been in Dallas. Like multiple breakfasts.
Barbecue nachos, because you can do it. You can eat nachos with barbecue and barbecue sauce all day. I even took that to go home, so I could tell you, like, I had some for breakfast the next day.
It's incredible.
And at the airport on the way home. So, it's the small things that you keep yourself amused, and like sending you nacho memes brings me joy, just like designing clothes.
Man, well, thank you so much for joining us. Anything that you want to tease for people, or anywhere you want people to be able to reach you?
Yeah, check out at Ultimate on Twitter, at Ult Esports on Instagram. You could check out our latest work online at ultesports.com. We are coming out with the newest Ult line in quite some time. I put a lot of myself into the work. The line is called Reset, which as a gamer in this culture, 2020, there's so many things that we want to hit the reset button on. We want to like challenge ourselves to be better. And the reset line is really what that's all about. It's like, can I create something new that really wipes the slate clean, hits reset, and says like, this is what we're all about. So I'm bringing my best work to the table. I'm bringing collaborations to the table. And that's really how I approach every release, is like, this is going to be my best work, And so hitting reset is like, in one part, as a human on this planet, that's a big theme for a lot of us. We share that together. And then from a creative standpoint, it's very similar. It's like, this is me bringing the brand to another level, and I want that to be in the work. I want everyone to see that and to feel that. But most importantly, it's like, hey, we're all human beings, man. We're all experiencing 2020 together. And like, I hope I can bring some creative joy to people through the work. And like, I know it's meant a lot to me to go through that process. So I'm super excited to be able to start to share that with everyone.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you for sharing it with everybody because it's dope.
Thank you, John. Thank you
for being a guest on the DLC Drop podcast.
DLC.
Glad to have you. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. John, this has been a pleasure, dude. Like, always great to see you, man. And best of luck with everything. And I'll be right there with you every step of the way. You need help, dude. I'm one crazy meme away from reaching out, man. But I'm stoked, dude. This is gonna be a rad. So appreciate DLC. It. All right, John.
Thanks, brother. Man, that was an incredible conversation with Nate Eckman from ULT Esports Apparel. He's got such a creative mind. It was super cool to just hear him coming from the agency space and working for other brands, and then getting to that point where he couldn't help but do his own thing. And just the way that he expresses his creativity, not just physically with apparel, but digitally through in-game products. And I'm super hyped to see how that's going to roll out. I know that, we see skins in the game from the publisher, but I'm excited to see how we can see more integration from brands, whether it's apparel, endemic and non-endemic. So super cool to have my friend Nate on, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the DLC Drop podcast. This podcast is part of the Esports Futuri Podcast Network and produced by Innovation Media Enterprises. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave us a review.